give Noah a follow. I have him on my notifications. Beat writer for the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette has been all over the story here with the disaster season for the Pirates, and we went over it last time we had you on. Let's focus on Derek Shelton out and what that means for the future of this organization. Do we think that Ben Cherington could be next, maybe at the end of the season, or does he get a longer leash because you can't replace the owner?
Yeah, from what I've been told, if the season were to end today, Ben Cherington is still the general manager of this ball club. I think his dismissal largely depends on how this team plays under Don Kelly moving forward. If they play better, in which there's a possibility for that to happen, considering that they're going to be getting Spencer Horwitz and Nick Gonzalez back soon. Bubba Chandler will probably be promoted here within the next month, and Jared Jones will be back sometime in July. They're going to get a better roster for him to play with, or for him to coach. And if this team plays a little better, I think there's a chance Cherington sticks around. I don't know if that's the right call or not. Thankfully, I'm not the one who has to make that decision. But yeah, I think that Cherington has a little bit longer of a leash. I think that's reflected in how they went about this last off season. You don't typically see teams reconstruct their front office 5 years into a regime. In the last 18 months or so, they've replaced all three heads of the scouting department, pro, international, and amateur. They found a new head of R&D and a new farm director. So those are moves that are typically made by a general manager who doesn't think he's on the hot seat. I don't know if that's changed. I would have to assume that there's definitely at least a little pressure connected to his name and title right now. But I think that if he's going to be let go at the end of the season, it's going to be because the team continues to play poorly after this Shelton move was made.
If that is true, if the result of the next 100 and some games does kind of pertain to Ben Cherington's employment for next year and 5 years from now, does that mean there's going to be more input from the front office and Don Kelly's not going to get a leash to be able to say, this is what I want?
That's another really good question. I know that they're probably going to make other staff changes. They just released their game planning coordinator this morning. So I'm interested to see what the rest of the coaching staff looks like now that Kelly's at the helm. And as far as Kelly's future goes here in Pittsburgh, I do think he'll have a little bit more control and say of things. But at the same time, I mean, his future is depending, just like Cherington's, on how well the rest of this season goes. I think that Shelton had a lot of control here, maybe more than some people would like to believe as far as lineup construction is concerned. It's just the options that he was given to choose from weren't the best. So it wasn't like he was necessarily pulling all the wrong strings. There just wasn't a lot of good strings to pull from. Kelly faces that same predicament. We'll see what he can do. But if he performs well, and I think he'll have the opportunity to make his own decisions with hope to perform well. But if he performs well, I think there might be a future here for him.
How is Don Kelly going to be able to plan for the game without a game planning coach? Radley Haddad is just gets an absolute stray here by getting fired along with Shelton. Do you know any background of why he was the one that the team's not hitting? Why did the hitting coach not go? Why, the team, Paul Skenes has 4 losses. See ya, pitching coach. Why Radley Haddad getting drug out the door with Shelton?
That's one I haven't had a lot of time to dig into just yet. This is a move that I just learned about this morning. And frankly, I've been pretty busy talking about the move that was made yesterday and still trying to figure out everything that went on there. There's a lot going on here in Pittsburgh if you guys haven't been paying attention, from bricks to Surfside ads to ushers hitting people with belts. It's been a lot. So now the focus is on the manager change, and I'm sure they're going to be, maybe a few other coaching staff changes, or at least a reshuffling of the deck. And it's hard to make sense of any of it right now because it's hard to put blame on a few specific individuals when it seems like it's a organizational failure as a whole.
Let me ask you this. So we're talking about the management, the brass a little bit. What we haven't talked about are the players. What have you seen from the players? Have they expressed any concern? Are they excited about the move? Have you talked to these guys about, what's next? Are you guys ready, to kind of change gears here a little bit? Anything from the players' perspective on this change yet?
I haven't talked to him since the change because yesterday was an off day. I'll be heading down to the clubhouse as soon as this interview's over, actually. But I am looking forward to hear their perspective. I know in the days leading up to Shelton's dismissal, it was made pretty clear to me that this was expected. And it's not something they necessarily were rooting for, but it was just kind of expected within multiple levels of the organization that if you've been around baseball long enough, you could feel a move like this coming. And I think the general consensus was this isn't going to fix much. They understood why it was likely coming, but it's going to take a lot of people being much better at their jobs if this is going to turn around. And the players recognize this. Mitch Keller voiced as much after Wednesday's loss. He said, we've got to hold each other accountable and we've got to do a better job of that. And it's going to take veteran guys like that on this team to push that messaging. And more than anything else, it's just going to take better execution. Some of their more reliable players just haven't been productive so far this season. You look at guys like Brian Reynolds, who is one of the higher paid guys on the team, one of the better hitters, one of the more consistent guys on the offensive end of this team. He just hasn't been playing well. And he's one of a few guys you could say that about. I'm sure he'll get going, and the team's going to need him to get going if it has any chance of playing any sort of meaningful baseball this year.
But when you have superstars, you need people around them. When you have stars, you need people around them. And nothing. I went to a game. I went to the Paul Skenes start. No ushers beat me up with a belt or anything. It was fine. I didn't buy any statesides. Nothing like that. But I saw Enmanuel Valdez hitting fourth for this team.
Yeah.
Is that making a Brian Reynolds, who was hurt with a lat at the time, or a Andrew McCutchen, or a bounce back year from Ke'Bryan Hayes accessible if you're not bringing in a first baseman who has a consistent track record of hitting fourth or fifth in the lineup? Nothing. Enmanuel is a big league baseball player, but when I saw him hitting fourth in the lineup, it surprised me that this team doesn't have something to supplement around the guys who are supposed to be the guys for the team.
Yeah, I totally agree. I last offseason on October 2nd, Ben Cherington spoke with us reporters here at PNC Park as his end of season press conference. He said that he felt that this organization's depth was the greatest it's been during his time in Pittsburgh. Well, that depth was tested in the beginning of this season when Nick Gonzalez was put on the IL after the first game of the season, and when Spencer Horowitz was put on the IL in spring training when he arrived in a wrist cast. They lost their right side of the infield, and then they lost Jared Jones as well. That depth was tested, and that depth failed. They did not have the guys to back up. I came on and was waiting in the lobby while you guys were talking about the Dodgers, and obviously that's a very tough team to compare the Pirates to, or vice versa. But you want to talk about depth when guys aren't performing on a winning baseball team. You have viable options coming up from the minor leagues or coming off the bench. The Pirates, their backup plans have not worked so far. At first base, at second base, in the corner outfield spots, it's been just a handful of guys who have all the pressure on them to perform. And if they get off to a slow start, they're in big trouble. If they get hurt, they're in big trouble. Or when other guys are slumping and you're one of a few players that are an actual threat in the lineup, the opposing team doesn't have to throw you anything to hit. You have no lineup protection. We're seeing all of that unfold right now here in Pittsburgh.
If you want to be bougie and have your own personal shopper, Hungry Root is actually the spot, and you can do it at an affordable price.
Yeah, without a doubt. And especially with my busy schedule with kids on the run all the time, baseball, gymnastics, I need a source that's going to get me going and my kids as well. So I'll pop in an easy chicken parm or grilled chicken, put it in a nice container, get it to go, and the kids are excited, and they're full, and they're nutritional, and it's ready to rock for their games.
There will be snacks that you have never heard of that you will immediately fall in love with. They will pick them out for you if you want. Obviously, you can go on there. You pick all of your preferences. Hungry Root gets the job done. Okay, FT fam? We love Hungry Root. Take advantage of this exclusive offer for a limited time. 40% off your first box plus a free item in every box for life at hungryroot.com/FT. That's code FT. hungryroot.com/FT. Code FT for 40% off your first box and a free item of your choice for life. The code is simple. It's 2 letters, FT. No, I'm going to go back to where I started. how does this not fall on Ben Cherington? We're in the National League Central. We know what we're dealing with in the owner at this point. They're not going to invest in players in the offseason. He's made that quite clear with his actions for a long time now. I can beat that one down as much as we want. But as far as money, I mean, sometimes the Brewers are not too far off with their payroll. They could be looked at as an outlier, but why can't the Pirates figure out how to get to that point at any point? And if they can't, doesn't that mean you try and, I don't know, find out who Matt Arnold's right-hand man or even below that is and just bring him over and be like, hey, can we try and replicate that? Because the budget's not going to change. And I feel like there's been enough time here for Cherington to rack up some picks, and I don't see it for the Pirates. I mean, I've been pretty clear-cut since the show started, right, that I don't see it. You know, sometimes it's cute. It's a 12-8 start, and everyone's like, woohoo, but it's not a good roster, right? It's not there. So I feel like they need a fresh start as far as how they're working as an organization. They're 12-26. This season's shot.
You're not the only person who feels that way. It's tough to justify a fresh start when you have Paul Skenes pre-arb right now, but I would have to agree. I think that when you look at what this organization is doing well versus what it's not doing well, I think that it's more than just identifying affordable big league talent. When you look back the last time this franchise was successful, that 13 through 15 window, it wasn't because they were outspending teams or even spending more money than they normally do. It was because they were a good organization. They were thriving in scouting. They were thriving in the analytics community. They were innovative with implementing the shift into baseball. That kind of started here in Pittsburgh. They were coming up with new ideas on how you can win baseball games. They were what people associate the Rays to be, or the Brewers, or the Guardians, these small market teams who consistently win. You're not going to beat teams in the offseason with your spending budget. You're going to beat them by being better in the unseen areas of the game, the behind the scenes stuff. And the Pirates were that type of organization for a brief period of time about a decade ago. But then that progress stopped. As other teams continue to advance with the times and advance their investment in those areas to the times, the Pirates remained stagnant and they fell behind. And I think their activity this past offseason indicated that they acknowledged that and they were aggressively trying to keep up. But, you know, even good hires in the head of scouting departments, research and development, farm director, those investments aren't going to show any type of payoff for 2 to 3 years. So they're behind right now in the areas that small market teams need to be in. You're right by saying, yeah, the Brewers, they're not spending more money than the Dodgers or the Yankees, but their front offices are just as good, if not better, at figuring out innovative ways to create runs, to prevent runs from being scored against them, and to ultimately win games.
Yeah, this is probably at this point the most maddening franchise in baseball at the moment. Yeah. You could have made the case for Seattle in the last few years, but they're humming along right now. So at least as far as power rankings for fan frustration, they're number one. So let's finish with this. Let's spin it forward. Their season's over, right? They're 12-26. They suck. Who should we start to look at and scout, right? From a national show perspective, we love the trade deadline and what leads up to it. So who could be on the move for the Pirates? Because the quickest way to get better is to trade away players for assets when you're not good. Not the guys that are signed up for long-term. And we know Skenes isn't getting traded, but who could deliver the Pirates some value back that they can utilize over the next few years?
Well, I think the first answer is Andrew Heaney. Everyone's looking for starting pitching. He's a veteran left-hander who's been a part of some playoff rotations. So I think he could pull in some value. I don't think a ton, considering that he's on a one-year deal. The two names that I think could be interesting, and I'm not necessarily sure if I'll actually make it three. Not sure if they'll be dealt, but I think could potentially bring in some value. Two right-handers out of the bullpen, David Bednar and Dennis Santana. Both have an extra year of control after this season. Bednar's been really good after getting optioned on April 1st. He returned on the 19th. I think he's only allowed one earned run since he's come back. So he's been really good. And Dennis Santana, if you look at his numbers since being acquired by Pittsburgh, has been one of the more productive right-handed relievers in baseball. He's been really under the radar as an effective leverage guy and with multiple years of control. I think both of those guys could be attractive pieces. As far as position players go, I think maybe Joey Bart could be someone that they could shop. I don't expect a huge return for him, but when you consider what they gave away, I believe the player they traded for him was Jackson Wolf, someone who was a minor league arm. And you could probably get something a little bit more than that in return now. And when you look at just an asset appreciation, that could be something where they could view that as, hey, we could get a decent prospect or another big league contributor, maybe a replacement level player for someone we didn't expect to have on the roster very long that ended up turning out to be a decent hitter. Bart, what does he provide to a team? I don't know about much defensively. I think there's a weakness to his game as a catcher behind the plate, but I mean, he's got an above league average OPS and he's got some pop to his bat. Hasn't necessarily showed this year, but he's been getting on base and he can barrel the baseball. I think he'd be a nice little bench bat for a team to add at the deadline.
Catchers rarely get moved at the, if you want them at the trade deadline, it's just tough to simulate into a pitching staff on a playoff team. But here it is, Noah, outside the box, trade Paul Skenes. Trade Paul Skenes in a Herschel Walker type of game-changing move.
Here's why you can't do it. I don't know how could you define Paul Skenes' value right now? I just don't think he's so cheap. His talent plus what you're paying him, I don't know if there's a value that could be defined. He's kind of like the Mona Lisa right now. You have to allow him to get closer to arbitration, or at least I think hit arbitration until he's making something similar to a player his caliber. Because with 4 years of control to what he can provide as far as value on the mound, I don't think any team, especially a team in contention, would be willing to offer, would have the assets to offer or would be willing to offer. Because I think if you're going to trade someone like that, you can't just trade him for straight up prospects. You need to get proven big league talent in addition to prospects.
Largest trade of all time. I'm talking like right now, he is a chandelier in a haunted house.
Yeah.
It doesn't, the value of the chandelier, and other teams, if you want to make an impact on this organization that will last for the next 6 years, which is why you fire your scouting department, different heads, you change different things, you're looking to shake it up. Nothing against Spencer Horwitz, but that ain't the move that was pushing the Pirates across. And right now, Paul Skenes might win 15 games a season for a 65 at max 70 win team. Go and see the value. Go and find it. Set a new bar. You have to do something new because you're not spending, so you don't have 4 years of control with him. You technically, in Pirate Land, you have 2.5 to 3 because that's when they get rid of guys and trade them for, future all-stars like they did Tyler Glasnow, like they did Garrett Cole, like they did all those things. Get something right now and change the bar.
I think it could happen. I don't think it's going to happen this year, though. I think that that's something that's going to happen probably further down the line. And if they start a rebuild now, which I don't think they're going to, but if they start a rebuild now and deal off guys like Reynolds, Keller, Hayes, if anyone wants him, Paul might be the final move in that rebuild down the line when he's a little closer to Arb. And you can, I also think that would have to be a move that's made over the offseason. I don't think anyone, like I said, would have the ability to acquire a player like that midseason.
Hey everybody, be sure to like and subscribe for more content.
We're back here every weekday, all year long, so do not miss an episode.
The videos are coming in all day. Here's another video you might enjoy.
Baseball the way it should be covered.